do you deserve that? Do you view us as equals? Do you think like you live in a different level than we do?
And so I would argue that Michael Saylor made me think about stuff that I had never thought about.
First person I blocked, Beyonce.
Did you just say you blocked Beyonce?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are wrapping their heads around that a little bit more closely.
Because if you create good content on day one, you get paid for your content on day one.
It's Mandana.
And Ian.
Welcome to Flirting with Bitcoin.
Season 3.
That's right. 3 years ago, I tricked Ian into a weekly date night.
I let you trick me so I could teach you about Bitcoin.
Well, it worked. I'm very excited for the halving.
You should be. Bitcoin's about to do what Bitcoin's about to do.
Ooh, okay then. Keon, can we start the show?
Okay. Let's go.
Hey, Ian.
Hey, Mandana.
So I've been following the digital guillotine or Guillotine movement that's spun up in the last week.
Wait, that's really what it's called?
Guillotine, yeah.
Guillotine?
Guillotine. It's clever. TikTokers are clever.
Okay. So who are they canceling now?
Well, I'll get into that, but just the idea of digitally blocking someone if you want to cancel them, and what goes behind that, and the discussions around why it's worth the 2 seconds to do that, I think is preparing everyone for Nostr and then eventually Bitcoin. I think it's Nostr first, then Bitcoin.
Okay. I guess things are starting to click for you now that you're on Nostr.
I mean, I think it's more people on TikTok think that TikTok is giving them freedom. They feel so different on the TikTok app versus other apps that they've tried to do whatever they're doing on TikTok on, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So for them, TikTok is freedom. TikTok is being taken away from them. So they think that their freedom is being taken away from them by the US government. But obviously TikTok also has an algorithm, you know?
Yep.
And so with both of those things, it's like, wait till they find out about Nostr. I mean, they'll still use TikTok because it's got that great video editing software in there. But yeah, I think once they find out that there's a place that you can go and no one controls it, I think the way that people are talking about their freedom with what they have to look at, Nostr is going to be very appealing to them once they learn about it.
Fundamentally, the people on TikTok want to go viral. I don't think anything's ever gone viral on Nostr.
I mean, I would argue that people on TikTok don't want to go viral. People on TikTok want to find their people. Like, the funny thing about the TikTok algorithm is that it's really cool that it shows you random things that are very niche, but it's like there's stuff that you're obsessed with. The TikTok algorithm is good. It's diverse. It's not just, oh, these are the only things I'm ever going to show you. It's like, oh, I'm going to like sneak in things about your childhood that based on what you like means these are traumas that you never addressed. Like, it's that good.
You say so that's good.
I mean, it is good. It's just really, it's
well, then
nice.
What else is it feeding you?
It tries a lot. I'm very specific to my algorithm, but I will say that TikTokers, I think, get a bad rap. People who don't use TikTok think they're like better than it. Whereas I think that TikTok is this really great new way to be accessible to each other without having to be perfect. Instagram demands perfection, and Twitter seems to also demand perfection. But TikTok is very messy. It's all about being like very authentic. And so oftentimes people are saying, I don't know, what do I do? And like they crowdsource solutions, or they're just like talking to someone as if they're talking to their friend. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of like influencers on TikTok, but most TikTokers are what I'm describing. And they only have a couple of, they have maybe 50 friends who watch it.
There's no algorithm on Nostr, so...
But the relays are the key on Nostr.
Are you implying that there would be like relays for the different versions of Talk?
Yeah. That's
like Mom Talk would have its own relay?
Yes. Why not? And then if you don't like someone, you block them. You don't have to go and complain to like an organization that's making, no, just block them and you won't ever see them.
That's an interesting proposition. I don't see why not. Yeah, I don't see why not. I just think that
it's a whole app that you don't use. So I feel like it's going to be hard for you to fully understand what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying. What I'm getting at is, do you want the algorithm or not? Because what you just described is the algorithm being cool. It's not necessarily people just finding people to follow and relays. Like there's an algorithm that's driving you all together.
Yes, there's extra work that you have to keep doing. But what I'm getting at, or we'll get into, is that this movement to block people is the first step of designing your own algorithm.
Okay, yes. I get where you're going with this.
Thank you.
I understand where you're going with this.
Now that we're on the same page, why don't you tell me what time it is?
The current time is 8:43:354, and we're approximately 1,236 blocks since our last recording.
And now it's time for the Satoshi Price Index, brought to you by PricedInBitcoin21.com. Hey, babe, what's going on with the SPI?
The SPI is up 1.2%, which means that if you're living on a Bitcoin standard, things got 1% more expensive for you.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. Don't forget, we're still like up 100% since last year.
You're right. All right. So what about things I'd want to eat?
You can get a dozen eggs for 5,000 Satoshis. You can get a kilogram of beef for 5,400 Satoshis. You can get a gallon of gas for 3,700 Satoshis. You can get a pound of cheese for 2,900 Satoshis. And a bushel of corn for 6,800 Satoshis.
And what about gold?
I mean, gold is at 3.2 million Satoshis for an ounce of gold. So, still pretty expensive.
That is.
And the median new house in the US is back under 7 Bitcoin.
Nice. What a steal. I know we don't talk price, but do you think 60 is the new floor?
I think that 15 is the floor right now.
Until further notice. Hey, Ian, you look real good in that tank top.
Thank you.
I normally like the black Bueno tank top on you, but you're really tan right now. So that white one, it just like pops.
Got to give the people what they want.
And you are. And if you want to be as good looking as Ian is right now, get yourself some Flirting with Bitcoin merch from our store at store.flirtingwithbitcoin.com.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you. We sold our first tank today.
The Bueno tank?
Yeah, that's why I'm wearing it.
Aw, how exciting. Thank you. Our first buyer. We have more things coming out actually very soon. I just need to get to it. But we've been busy. Staying up on all the many ways that you can stay connected with us. We have our Telegram group at Flirting with Bitcoin, our YouTube channel at Flirting with Bitcoin. We're on Wavelength. Twitter is Flirting with BTC, and Ian's is Onision. We're on Instagram, Flirting with Bitcoin, and of course, we're on Nostr. And if you want to subscribe and know the second our episodes drop, sign up for our newsletter at www.flirtingwithbitcoin.com. Hey, it's Mandana. We're in season 3, The Having, and I'm making sure we drop a new episode every week. We are dreaming big for Flirting with Bitcoin, and the only thing standing in our way is time and money. Let me be transparent and talk real numbers. Through Value for Value, our listeners directly paid us 100,000 sats in season 1. Season 2, we made 1 million sats. Of course, now we gotta see if we can 10x again and reach 10 million sats this season. #relationship goals. If we earn 10 million sats from the work we put into this podcast, it'll be the sign that one of us can do this part-time, maybe even full-time. Send us Bitcoin or shop our merch store. It all helps with the goal. You can also give us an old school shout out on social, listen to us on your favorite podcasting 2.0 app, or make and share clips of the show. Your support in any form is value we appreciate. Go to flirtingwithbitcoin.com/support and let's experience value for value together. So what do you know about the celebrity blockout movement?
Is this a real movement? Because if it is, I've literally never heard of it.
That's why I was asking. So it all started when a TikToker, if you're not on TikTok, there's no reason you would know who this person is, but she had something like 11 million followers at the time. Which is a lot of TikTokers have a lot of followers. There's a lot of people on TikTok. She went to the Met Gala and she wore this very elaborate Marie Antoinette style dress. And she posted a TikTok of herself with the audio, this popular trending audio that says, "Let them eat cake." And it's from the movie Marie Antoinette. And people just like lost their shit on her and the whole thing. They were like, how can you, one, like even go to the Met Gala? How could you wear this ridiculous thing and then do that audio not knowing that like literally they were moving in on Rafah and like finishing up the genocide that we've been watching for the past 7 months? This unfortunate person is embodying like the frustrations and the anger that a lot of people have towards celebrities and just everything that's marketed at them that pretends or ignores like the realities of the world, right? So from there, it's TikTok. So a lot of people are just jumping in, giving their 2 cents about it. And this idea comes up of just like block them. If you are upset that someone isn't speaking out about these things, block them. Don't let them make any more money off of you. And then it just goes into this thing of all of these different sides of how people make money off of our eyeballs, and how we can like block them so that they can't make money off of you anymore. And also like kind of confuse our algorithms a little to have them waste ad dollars, and like really hit people digitally. It's very fascinating. Like I've been learning a lot that I didn't understand how some of these social media advertisement worked. I really thought that I didn't see a lot of stuff. But now that I've been blocking, it's like the algorithm is kind of freaking out with me and it's throwing a lot of new different types of ads at me. And I realized that I was seeing products of companies owned by these celebrities that I've now since blocked. So I don't see those ads anymore.
You didn't realize it was an ad?
No, I would have realized it was an ad. It's just that these people on our social media are making a lot of money off of us. And we think that somehow they're not, but they are. That's how these apps work. And if we follow them, if we even look at their stuff, if they get impressions, if they get our eyeballs, they make money off of us.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just, again, like it's TikTok. So if you're not on TikTok, a lot of different parts of the internet will jump on, or not the internet, a lot of different parts of the world will jump on different discussions to be like, and another thing, and another thing. And this is also something that nobody ever talks about, because there's nothing blocking from people connecting. And so I will say like, that's the really cool thing about TikTok is that people can find each other as they're trying to like come up with solutions, because the activism on TikTok is very well-intentioned. Like they want to do what they can, knowing that TikTok is such a big, large audience. There's more people on TikTok than any of these other social media applications.
Uh-huh.
So it's all just been really fascinating. I don't know if it's true, but I keep seeing that Kim Kardashian has already lost 3 million followers. That girl, the initial girl that kind of kicked off everything, she lost 1 million so far. But she's trying to apologize, but not really. Not that it matters, but just generally how much attention is now being given to whether or not it's worth participating in this blockout effort, right? I say celebrity, but it's just anyone who has an account on social media. So they're saying news outlets, they're saying magazines, they're saying specific politicians, like they're like, just block them. And it's your business. No one can say, no, you shouldn't block this person, even though you don't like them. It's a very harmless act, but it cuts off their access to make money off of you.
Sure.
Non-consensually.
I guess it's non-consensual, but fundamentally you're on a social media platform and somebody's making something off of your eyeballs,
money,
right?
Yeah.
Like that's how it all works. That is the product. Your eyeballs are the product.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are wrapping their heads around that a little bit more closely, because there are some people who are like, there's no point. I was never following those people. There's a lot of people that are going on TikTok to try to explain, no, it actually does make a difference when you block them. These are the reasons why. I can't articulate it. But I don't work in that industry. And these are people who work in that industry. And they're like, no, this is exactly how it works. There's also, I watched a video earlier tonight of somebody who works in like crisis management in the entertainment industry. And she's like, no, if you have 10 million followers on TikTok, you are probably making as much money as, some, kind of D-list celebrities that, maybe got famous through television, right? They're probably TikTokers are probably making more money than them. And so she was like, no, there's crisis management. This is a fire drill that's happening right now with all of these people. This isn't being casually done, but a lot of these people are getting bad advice and it's just getting worse. Like a lot of people are making dumb decisions, making this movement probably catch more fire. It's going to be really interesting to watch, but the discussion that's happening around, why you should hit them where it hurts financially if they're not using their platforms, because why have we given these people these platforms? I don't feel like I've seen that public discussion ever.
The discussion of the platform itself.
Of celebrity and influence and moving it away from entertainment standpoint, but making it more about like, no, we are actually elevating you in society to be influential on us. We recognize that if you say something is good, we think it's good because we've elevated you because we really like you. But do you deserve that? Are you like a human? Do you view us as equals? Do you think like you live in a different level than we do? You know, I think that conversation I've never seen before.
Okay, I guess people are choosing to be human.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is fascinating because, you know, what you're describing to me is why, like, I fundamentally was not on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people figured this out already. Maybe the masses are figuring it out now.
I think the masses are heartbroken. I remember, I don't know, about like 6 years ago, I was watching the Met Gala and I was like, this is just like Hunger Games. This is the Capitol. I thought it and I looked at it. And I just remembered like year after year, I would think, I can't believe they're still doing this. I can't believe they're still doing this. And because the night of the Met Gala was the same night as the Rafah invasion, it was just like, y'all really do not care. And the theme of the Met Gala ball is some insane, obscure little story about a crazy rich couple who lived high on the hill and down in the village, people are dying from famine. There's a garden around their house. And if they pluck a flower, it'll keep the people at bay. And they pluck the last flower and then the people come and like take the husband and wife. That was the theme of the Met Gala. You can't even make this stuff up.
I've never liked celebrities for this reason. I have people that entertain me, but for the most part, you say someone's a celebrity, I'm just suspect because of this behavior, right? Like this has always been going on. Post Edward Snowden, post like internet privacy isn't real. Like once that happened, people are just slowly accepting what was told to everyone openly. Like they're doing this, right? Like whatever you think they're doing. And it's just now, like a decade later that people have just heard it for a decade. You can't unsee it, to your point. Like it's like the night that they're invading a city is the same night that you're partying, talking about poor people coming to take your stuff. Like they've been doing that forever. They've always been doing that.
Yes, it's been, yes. This is nothing new, but it's really beautiful to see a TikTok movement like this happen because I kind of caught it right in the beginning because I think I was their target audience because I do it. I follow a lot of celebrities. It's fun for me, right? And so I went and I just like first person I blocked, Beyonce. You guys know I love Beyonce, but she hasn't said anything and she's running around the fucking planet wearing the US flag everywhere she's going. It's really weird.
I'm sorry. I don't even know how to take what I just heard. Did you just say you blocked Beyonce?
Yes, I blocked Beyonce.
Are you? This is breaking news.
I mean, I don't know. I told you I was doing this and she was one of the people.
You did not say Beyonce.
I blocked Shakira. Who else
You did not block.
I blocked a lot of people I care. I really thought were good people, but you kind of take a step back and you think, damn, this person knows they have influence in the world. This person knows there's a genocide going on. They're not saying anything. No, I actually don't want, like, why do I have to consume any of their content ever again? I should instead want to promote and watch and engage with people who accept the realities of the world and live in reality with me. I know I'm talking about celebrities and all of that, but it's not just, it's any a social media account. So that includes news, that includes like the people who do commentary or podcasters, all of those things. I think all of that really matters because what's the importance, like the importance of influence and the power that it wields in this day and age? Seriously, if you're not doing anything of value with it, like, do you deserve to have it? In my eyes, no, you're blocked.
I cannot believe I just heard that come out of your mouth. I'm happy.
Get ready for me to be like, I don't consume that person's content anymore. I don't consume that person's content anymore.
But I just want to call out, like, I said this about Disney. You looked at me like I was crazy. You were like, okay, I guess we're not watching stuff anymore. I'm just glad that you're catching up.
Yeah, but
you're catching up.
I think what I really like, what I really like about this movement, though, is like, they're not saying go block everyone. They kind of are, but they're like, no, right now, this is who we're focusing on. And they immediately from the beginning went after Lizzo, and Lizzo posted this video where she's literally shaking talking about Operation Olive Branch, which is this nonprofit that funds families to leave Gaza and before they get killed. So she posts about that, and she's just like, does not even acknowledge like, hey, I'm only doing this because I'm afraid that you're going to cancel me. After she did that, some other people like started doing that. But there's other huge celebrities that are completely ignoring the situation and are promoting something right now. So they're trying to make money off of us right now, specifically because they're putting out a tour or an album or movie, and they're ignoring this. And they're also posting Mother's Day nonsense posts, ignoring that like a bunch of mothers and children have been killed. Block. Like, we don't have to have a public discussion about it. People post the name, they say, go look for it yourself. If you want, block them. And it's that impact. The day that the movement says Shakira is going to lose so many followers, and it's going to keep happening, right? There's going to be a trail afterwards. Slowly, as this movement grows, there's going to be bigger hits.
I just want to circle back to the fact that this is happening on TikTok.
No, it's happening on other apps now. It's migrated to Instagram, but I don't know. I don't know if it's moved to Twitter yet.
It started on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going back to the whole concept of algorithms in general, why did the algorithm let this go through?
A lot of things that have been formed for this movement are using a lot of like tricks around TikTok that confuses the algorithm. These Gen Zers, they're smart. They get what the algorithm wants. They'll go in the comments of all of these posts and write Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. They're so smart. I'm telling you, these kids are smart.
But to what end?
We'll see what happens. This is like 3 days in. But wait till one of these people find out about Nostr.
Why don't you tell them about it?
I'm nobody on this platform.
Like, you need to find a person to talk to, a famous person? Is that what you're saying?
I actually tried to pitch Nostr to this woman who's an actress, and then she's also an activist. She's Iranian. And she made this amazing video talking about something that was happening that day, and a lot of people were in disagreement about it. And it was such a good video, and I couldn't download it. So I messaged her, and I very briefly told her about Nostr, and she was like, I don't have energy for another social media app. And I was like, give me your videos and I'll post them. But she didn't like quite understand, and so I dropped it. But yeah, like, I think she would fit perfectly on Nostr because she's a truth teller. Like, she really tells the truth about what's going on in Iran, and she doesn't politicize it. I think people that work really hard on these other apps don't have the mental bandwidth to them. It's just another app. They understand that new social media apps come. They don't understand that it's like a completely different thing.
It's a very nuanced point that I'm trying to make, but I feel like you're making it for me, which is they are on social media trying to change social media. They're not choosing to opt out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I left social media, right? I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have TikTok.
But you have Twitter.
But I have Twitter. I have Twitter for other like programming reasons. Like, I have Twitter because of like other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that like I fundamentally left, and it's only because of doing this podcast was I like on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, before that, I wasn't on Twitter. Like,
That's
I'm on
true.
Twitter when I
Yeah.
need to be doing work on Twitter. Having chosen to opt out of it before, I opted out because I saw what was going on. Going back to my point of, I think people are just finally accepting what's going on. And so now they're still in the stage of like, I can change it from within, block these people. That's how you like get in their pocketbook. Or you just delete the app altogether. When you opt out, you either plan to not be social at all, or you have to have something else to opt into, or you have to be looking for something else to opt into.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying is like, I feel like this is not the movement that's going to bring a bunch of people to Nostr, because they're still trying to change.
Oh, I agree with
social media
that. I don't
platform.
think this is like A to B. I think this is just priming people for it.
Okay, fine. I agree with
no,
that.
I don't think it's going to take some time, but I think the conversations that are happening right now, I've learned a lot. Again, with how much money is made off of my scrolling.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it, but I didn't fully understand the mechanics of it.
Yep.
And how to game it. And if I really, really dislike someone, how to make sure they definitely don't make money off of me. Call that petty, but whatever. Also, I would like to give money to people who are like, risking their livelihoods to, support something they believe in. No one can argue with this. No one can make you unblock someone. Let's see if these apps make us. But right, currently, that's not something that's done. Who's going to stop me? Who's going to stop any of these people who are like, no, we are done with Kim Kardashian. We don't want her. She's useless. I don't want to elevate her platform. If other people want to, Good for them, but I don't want to anymore. I instead want to elevate, Bella Hadid. They're basically given the same thing to society. They're just like beautiful women who model and take lovely photos.
It is what it is. It's a job.
Look, I'm saying what I'm saying. I'd rather have Bella Hadid. I've switched it out.
That's great.
Who's going to stop me?
Nobody.
And that freedom, and how good that feels, is just a small taste of Noster.
If there's an algorithm, there's no freedom.
Exactly. And so they're slowly going to step into that. So look, I think this is a good sign. But with all of these discussions, it's really gotten me thinking about people with platforms in the Bitcoin space. Because there are Bitcoin celebrities and news publications and just louder voices who are more popular.
There's a tier system, I suppose.
There definitely is.
Yes. I'm not denying that.
Are the people who have these platforms, do they necessarily deserve them? The first one that comes to mind, because I recently learned this, is that Michael Saylor is kind of a new Bitcoiner.
I mean, that's not a secret.
I did not know that.
I've been very clear about that.
I don't think so.
I am very certain that I have.
Well, with him being a new Bitcoiner, he hasn't experienced Bitcoin as much as someone who's been around for a couple of cycles. And so you always say that you have to go through one halving. After your first halving, you'll see this, you'll see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's experience-based, right?
I would argue it's more experience-based than anything.
You always argue that it's more experience-based than anything.
Yeah.
But then this wealthy dude comes along. He's like, oh my God, Bitcoin is great. I'm going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. I'm going to keep buying a bunch of Bitcoin. And he ends up being this really, really loud voice in Bitcoin.
Okay.
Is that right? Does he deserve his platform?
Michael Saylor was the first Bitcoiner to allocate that much Bitcoin openly in the way that he did. And that is why he has the platform that he has. Now, I'm not saying he bought his platform by doing what he did in Bitcoin, but there will only ever be one Michael Saylor. Like no other CEO in any company in the world can do what Michael Saylor did. They just can't. It's undoable.
Do you think he knew that when he was doing it?
Everyone who had been around knew that the first guy who did it was, if they did it correctly, was going to be that guy.
And be a legend?
He has acquired 1% of all of the Bitcoin that will ever exist for a single entity, a company that he founded, 20 years ago, that from what I understand was like, it exists, but it wasn't Facebook or Google. No one ever heard of it, right? It's based here, right? Over in Reston or whatever, probably just contracting for the government, whatever. It doesn't matter. It wasn't like a very well-known company, but he took a risk with that company that has turned out to be probably the best risk that any CEO or any person ever has taken.
Yeah, but then does his opinion on Bitcoin and Bitcoin development and those types of things, do they carry more weight?
Put it in his perspective, right? Like the king of Spain, who sent the first boats across the Atlantic, risked very little and in return got half the world. The 3 boats or whatever that they sent were nothing to him, and he got half the world. Michael Saylor, he didn't get half the Bitcoin, but you can only do that once. And so that is you can only, in quote unquote, discover America once, right? Which that's a whole other thing that I won't get into. But as far as the European story goes, you can only discover America once. That's fundamentally what he did. And no one's ever going to be able to take that Bitcoin away from MicroStrategy. That Bitcoin will live on forever. There'll be Satoshi's coins, and then there'll be MicroStrategy, the company. And maybe it gets broken up into a bunch of companies, and they, some weird future where they decide that having too much Bitcoin is a crime, and they force MicroStrategies to break apart, which I don't put that past the federal government, given how they're acting.
Don't you think eventually people will be beefing with all that money?
It doesn't really matter because they have enough money in Bitcoin terms to acquire all of the other companies over time. You might think that Google is a better company than MicroStrategies because Google brings in $20 billion a year in profit. Okay, great. But MicroStrategies has so much Bitcoin that we all know that there is a point in the future where they will be able to buy Google.
So does having a lot of Bitcoin mean that you deserve a loud voice?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there is a uniqueness to Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. And I think that uniqueness is keep existing for a while because he's the first CEO of a company, which, take it for what it's worth, but CEOs are considerably right below government in the hierarchy of things. So he's like a low level corporate employee, right? And his peer was the president of a small country in Central America, El Salvador. Fundamentally, those are the 2 outliers in the world. First country to do it, first CEO to do it. Like their uniqueness will continue forever. And I think that's why they have the platform. I think that maybe Bukele is a different type of Bitcoiner than Michael Saylor, and everyone's a different type of Bitcoiner. You know, it's not a monolith. I think when Michael Saylor is no longer saying things that bring more people in his sphere into Bitcoin, because that's his job now. Like his job is to bring his peers in, just like my job is to bring my peers in. Everyone is supposed to bring their peers in. Well, he hasn't brought a lot of peers in yet.
Why do you think that is?
They aren't willing to take the risk that he took. So they're waiting for the situation to be a little bit easier to do. So the ETFs are the easy way to do it. And the ETFs just started in January, and we're getting some of our first reporting on who bought these ETFs. And we're already seeing that like Jamie Dimon, who's been talking shit about Bitcoin, has been buying the ETF. So like Jamie Dimon has Bitcoin while saying like, I don't want to talk about Bitcoin.
Jeez.
But,
and he knows it's going to come out.
But he knows it's going to come out.
care.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's going to get his. But you know what Jamie Dimon won't have? As much as Michael Saylor.
Y'all block him on Twitter.
He's not on Twitter. He doesn't, the Twitter are all pores to him.
Yeah,
right?
they are.
Even Jamie Dimon, who is arguably like one of the world's largest financiers, will not have more Bitcoin than Michael Saylor. It is almost mathematically impossible. Like that's why Michael Saylor is so unique. Do I think the amount of Bitcoin you have offers you the platform like it's a corollary? No. But the fact that there will only really ever be one, he kind of is going to have that for a while. Just that uniqueness and that glow. Just like Bukele. Like he's going to have that for a while. He might even turn into a really bad dictator, but he'll still have that glow as from that uniqueness that he took this risk and now he's the Bitcoin dictator of El Salvador.
So let's say that you've done nothing to earn a historic milestone in Bitcoin. What would it take for someone to get your attention, to influence you about Bitcoin?
That's an easy one. People who say things that make me think. That is how I elevate people. And so I would argue that Michael Saylor made me think about stuff that I had never thought about. And I think he did that for a lot of people. He was very blunt about what being a CEO of a company is and why the smart ones will eventually make this choice. You just have no choice but to do it. But he explained it in such a way that I was like, oh, yeah, like that sounds very like first principles thinking of like how a CEO in the future will have to act. So yes, fundamentally, I see all companies having Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Oh, that's a lot of money buying Bitcoin over some period of time that I'm in before it happened, right? Like, so he was giving more conviction based on how he saw his peer group operating. But if you don't have a unique event that you kind of bring to Bitcoin or whatever, I think the people that I like in Bitcoin that I will retweet or I will, share links of. It's usually like thought-provoking stuff to me. And I like that. So, I've talked about some of these articles before, but this one guy, he wrote this essay about Bitcoin and like relating it to fungus and mycelium and how it grows and how that whole system worked. I knew a little bit about how that system worked, but he actually taught me about how that system worked through Bitcoin. And so people who do stuff like that will just create like a unique item in the space, teaching something or whatever, using Bitcoin as like the parable or whatever. And then you just see people pop up every once in a while. It's like, oh, that's the mycelium guy, or that's the, Bushido Bitcoin guy or whatever. It's just, if you can make people think about a topic, that tends to be who gets elevated. I think the Bitcoin buying, at a certain point, you can jump the line. But I think the Bitcoin buying is like, well, until you buy Bitcoin, you have no platform in the Bitcoin space. Right. So
unless you're a hater, like a troll.
For example, anybody who's like, quote unquote, going to say they're a Bitcoiner and like following Peter Schiff so they can troll him, like, okay, fine, whatever. That's what you want to do. I have Peter Schiff blocked. Like, I don't even.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem blocking people. I've been doing that on Twitter forever. I just find it funny that people are like discovering this concept because that's what normal people have been doing. It's just the masses finally realizing that the block button has like an effect, which is fine. Like nobody was paying attention when all of that was explained to us, how all that worked. But I'm glad that everyone understands it now. We all knew how that worked. Like people have broken down what celebrities' tweets are worth by the letter. That is like known information for like the last at least 7 years.
Yes, I know that, but this is different.
It's not different though, because how do they get to a $7 a character amount for a tweet? If not by the fact that you're seeing it. Like, who are they tweeting it to if not you?
Right, but even if you're not following these people, blocking them blocks their ad revenue. That is what I didn't understand. I think it's different if you're actually following the person. Yes, okay. You block them. But if you're not...
You needed to know that the more back of the house information.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's all about incentives. You needed the incentive to block them.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
It's not just me. I'm talking about how...
Well, I'm just talking about the story you told me about your journey into blocking celebrities.
But it's the conversations that are happening around the movement and like, well, why should we do it? I don't think it matters. You know, that back and forth. That's where a lot of those details have come out. And it's just fascinating. And it's
Sure.
compelling to other people to be like, okay, fine, it does make a difference. It does make a difference. I'll do that.
Again, I'm only happy. I'm just being, a sarcastic jerk about it, but like I'm only happy about the fact that people are doing this. Like this is going to be great. It will take a while for them to leak over into Nostr, but Nostr is kind of like, in my opinion, like Bitcoin, like eventually people will show up. Maybe we'll have better tools for them. There's a lot of stuff happening in Nostr that like having uncensorable speech does not seem to be a big enough value prop.
No, definitely not.
The alternative to whatever you dislike technically exists. So like if you feel like you can't do or say things or get traction on Instagram, you are on TikTok or vice versa or whatever, right? Like people have chosen which platform they want to hang out on culturally. As long as you kind of have the illusion of choice, you would never consider to opt out of that system.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it.
And I think what was just
people
described,
use LinkedIn as social media too.
Oh, I am very aware of that.
Yeah.
That's the weird one. That's the weirdest of all of them to me, but that's a different topic for another day. But what I will say is that
I don't want to hate on anyone.
I'm not hating on anyone. It's just I am shocked at how it is used. But what I was getting at is that illusion of choice so that you don't opt out, I would argue is by design. So I would ask the question, who designed it? Why did they design it like that? And number two, if we're not describing social media, what else are we describing when we say that? That is literally our like political system of the world right now. It's the same thing.
What do you mean?
You're given the illusion of choice. So as long as people feel like, oh, well, I might vote for that guy or I might vote for that guy, with the illusion of choice, people don't opt out. Social media and opting out of social media, there's no like citizenship attached to your social media account when you try to opt out. But as we were talking about in our last episode, when people try to opt out of that same system that like runs the world, they literally force you to pay tax to leave. They force you to pay to leave that illusion of choice system. That's how messed up this is. That's how messed up this is. So I'm glad that people are like figuring this out on social media. The next step is to figure out that that's what's going on when you take your eyeballs out of the phone.
Hey gang, it's Ian. Let's chat for a second. Bitcoiner or not, I know we're all feeling anxious to save more money lately. But do you want to know why you're feeling that way? It's because you're still thinking in fiat. Seeing the price of everything go up in your local currency, that's what's driving you crazy. That's where all this anxiety is coming from. Meanwhile, the reality is everything is actually getting cheaper on Bitcoin Island. And you might ask yourself, how do I get to Bitcoin Island? Simple. Bitcoin Island is just a state of mind, and you need to train your brain to think in Bitcoin. Your first training exercise is to set a Bitcoin goal using the Satoshi Savings Calculator made by yours truly. And your goal should be to always have more Bitcoin today than you did yesterday. It's literally that simple. This way, the amount of Bitcoin you have only goes up. And once you start to think in Bitcoin, over time, everything around you becomes cheaper. You'll be way more confident about the future. No more anxiety. Look, we don't need to overcomplicate this. You're still early, but you gotta be strategic. And you gotta unlearn everything they taught you about money. So go to flirtingwithbitcoin.com and train your brain to think in Bitcoin with the Satoshi Savings Calculator.
So the really interesting thing about Bitcoin being decentralized is that it has to have some type of community that regularly communicates with each other. Before Nostr, that was Twitter.
Yes.
And then came Nostr. And so those are the two spaces where Bitcoiners talk to each other. So who gets to have the loudest voice in the Bitcoin world?
If you're on Twitter, you're dealing with an algorithm. So if I go on Twitter right now, I can see all the things that have gotten 100 likes or more. I'm not necessarily choosing to see that, but Twitter is putting that in front of me. And so maybe those people are playing the algorithm game. Maybe they're just creating good content. I don't know which one it is, and I don't really care fundamentally because there's an algorithm, I can't tell. But on Nostr, I follow a lot of people, but a lot of people don't post different content because
neither do I. I think my relays are messed up.
It's not your relays. It's that most people don't post. So I follow you, you follow me, but you don't post anything. You might retweet something else, but you might just be on there reading stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And how you followed me, maybe I retweeted something and that's why you liked me and then I just followed you back, right? Like I see a solid, I'll say 20 to 50 people that create most of the content in my feed. Because I know that I see everything. I almost know their daily pattern, right? Like I know when their first post is going to roughly be around if they're posting, and I know when their last post is going to roughly be around if they're posting.
So obviously you like it if you're watching them this closely.
I'm not watching this closely. Like, you brought this topic up, and so I've been thinking about it.
Mhm.
And what I'm thinking is, that's how I see Noster. I see Noster as, I mean, the app that I use doesn't have like trending, or you can't go viral on Noster.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I go to Noster, I tend to be on Noster with a set of people. And so that set of people of my window of when I'm on Noster tends to be about 20 to 50 people that are actually creating content within the window of time that I possibly am using Noster. But if I stay up really late at night, I get a different Noster.
Interesting.
Right. And so, like, because there's no centralization pushing you things you might have missed, the things you miss are just the things you miss. And you have like your own little village of people unofficially that like all woke up together, all got their coffee together, right? All went to their crappy jobs together, all made fun of their normie employees, co-workers together, right?
That's an interesting way to describe it.
And that's not exactly what's happening, but fundamentally that's what's happening, because no one's staying awake for 24 hours and there's no algorithm pushing you stuff that you missed. So what else would you see but the people that are up and around in your same window, which is a very interesting algorithm, because that's an actual natural algorithm.
Meeting space.
Well, yeah, but like that's a natural algorithm. Like, the algorithm of the planet is we tend to be awake when the sun is up, right? And so even if you stay up late into the night or you wake up early in the morning, you're still only awake for so much of the day. And so the natural algorithm is like, how much of the day do you actually participate in? You have your window, and now we have, we've always had social media, but now we have Noster, which is no algorithm social media, where you actually can see, oh, wow, like these are the people that are awake and living their life roughly when I am. That's not how social media works for the most part. Like, that's what's so profound about it. It's like, that's not how social media works. You do not have a daily routine with a bunch of people.
It's interesting that's how you describe your Noster experience. But aren't there still celebrities or people who have large followings on Noster? I mean, they brought them over from Twitter.
I mean, I would argue that probably like Jack Dorsey has the most followers on.
Yeah.
Right. But Jack Dorsey posts just like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack Dorsey posts within the window that I'm awake. So when Jack Dorsey posts, I actually see his actual post. Now, the next day, I'll see a retweet of it.
A ton of retweets.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the delay it takes to go from people who are in the natural cycle to people who are now seeing it out of the cycle. Like, they were asleep when he tweeted.
Yeah. Look, I understand all of that, but it still doesn't move away that he's somebody who has a larger platform that he's brought over from Twitter. And then there are other people who are in that same space, right? And so those people were elevated. I mean, Jack Dorsey is different because like Twitter was his company, but other people, they were determined by the Twitter algorithm, right?
A lot of people rode a Twitter algorithm to their follower count.
Yeah.
And I just would argue that, yes, you can bring that over to Noster, and it is what it is. When you have an alternative, which is no algorithm, you start to see a lot more of the flaws with the algorithm. I think that some people got their followers the way they got their followers. I think other people, I see their stuff and I'm like, who follows this person? It doesn't match up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all know that there are things you can do to boost your follower counts on Twitter.
What is it, buy bots?
You buy bots or whatever you want to do, but we know that you can do that. And so when I see someone put things out consistently that are like not good, but they have like a lot of followers, that's my first reaction is like, this isn't natural.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? That person, they could in theory come to Noster and buy bots on Noster, I guess. I don't know. But like, it doesn't have the same effect because you can't influence an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think Noster is a more genuine reflection of like day-to-day activity of the internet. Anything with an algorithm, you have to question, why is it that this is what I'm seeing? Until Noster and that no algorithm approach, having followers meant something. But I think now Noster has made followers on like algorithm platforms almost worthless. Like, mentally to me, they're worthless now. Just like likes are worthless. We have Zap. Like, a like is worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no algorithm on Noster. So why are you liking something? Okay, it's just, I acknowledge your post or whatever. But Zaps are actually like, that was worth, I worked a job somewhere to get that Bitcoin, and I'm willing to give you some of it for your however many characters were part of that tweet.
And that's the piece of it that I think is going to be really exciting when TikTokers learn about Noster and Zaps, because they are all little small businesses.
Well, yeah, like, okay, so I'll give you a good example, right? We started putting our stuff on YouTube, but, we've been doing the podcast for 2 years now. We've actually have made some money via Bitcoin, via Fountain or whatever from this podcast, right? According to YouTube, I can't even start making money until I cross some thresholds that they've set.
Right.
And we haven't crossed those thresholds yet.
What are they, like follower count?
The first one is like you have to have 500 followers, right? And I'm not saying this to be like, please follow me, but like this is the difference between any social media platform and Nostr and Bitcoin is that there are no barriers. There are no gatekeepers. If you create good content on day one, you get paid for your content on day one. You get the same access as everyone else. And you just can't be certain that that's happening on other platforms. So on Nostr, if you make 10,000 sats off of something, like that's a legit 10,000 sats that a bunch of people saw it and were willing to give you money for it in the moment that they saw it. On YouTube, I might make something that would get 1 million views if you put it in front of everybody, but you won't put it in front of everybody. It's like cross some hurdle. That's the problem. Like that's the like.
They make content creators work for them.
Exactly. That is what they're doing. And that's what they figured out how to do. And as I see this stuff on YouTube and like all the things they're asking me to do, it's like, that just explains like all of the begging that you see in people's channels and that like slowly goes away over time because they got to cross all these YouTube thresholds before they can actually make money off the content that they'd already made. You know, like you'll watch a video there that's like 2 years old. It's still good. You didn't see it for 2 years because YouTube wasn't showing it to me. Like it's so subtle and people don't realize it. You know, who is it? Lynn Alden recently, she just put out a video about like how money works. It's like a 30-minute video, animated, really simple, really good. When I saw the post on Nostr, I think it already had like 50,000 sats zapped to it.
Wow.
Right? Like it's a good video. She doesn't have to go through any gatekeepers to just put her content out and see what it will earn. And because people can give money on Nostr, they do give money on Nostr. Versus if you want to make money on Twitter, first you got to give Elon Musk $8. And then he'll share some of the revenue with you. It's not all. He's got his overhead, you know?
Oh, yeah, he has his overhead.
He's got to pay for his office buildings and his employees and all the things that he needs so that he can charge you $8. That's his overhead. But whatever's left over, he'll share a little bit of it with you. That's the deal.
It's wild, too, because making tweets is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It's all labor.
And so when I see things, when I say like it's hard to go viral on Nostr, you won't necessarily go viral on Nostr, but you can make a lot of money on something that didn't go viral.
Yeah.
Like somebody might give you 100,000 sats, which would goose the numbers of like, okay, most things get like 10 sats, right? I've seen people zap people 100,000 sats for like a tweet or some like informational post or whatever, right? Like if it's good information, if it's good content, there are people that are just like, hell yeah, that deserves $10.
Yeah, it's really cool. I've been zapped a couple times like that. It's been fun.
All the people that do all of the posting, all of the work that you're doing on Twitter
and TikTok,
you're working for them. Everyone, you're working for them. And on Nostr, there's no them. That's like,
and it's your money. You don't have to wait until the end of the month to get paid.
There's no cashing you out where they're like, oh, let me count how much money you earned for you. So look at what I earned for me. This is just what you earned, right? Like it's comical, but they had their time. They made their money. They did their thing. But now there's an alternative. You can either try to pick which platform you want to fix or change within it, or you could just let both hands go. It's just opting out. And that is fundamentally what Bitcoiners are doing. One of our most recent episodes where I was like, or the clip that we posted, you don't have to figure out who they are anymore. You just buy Bitcoin and it checks all of them. Just leave and come to Nostr. You don't have to worry about it. Like it just checks all of them at once. If you leave all the platforms, they make no money off of anyone, period. Stop. Not only that, but you're no longer working for the social media companies because you're the product that they're selling.
It's true.
I'm glad that people are getting here, but guys, hurry up.
They haven't gotten here yet.
Hurry up, because like they still got you. Even when you fight and scream at them on their platforms, they still have you. And if you say the wrong thing or the wrong truth, they can still block you. And fundamentally, if you're on a place where at some point you might get blocked for saying the wrong thing at the wrong political climate, are you ever going to be able to change that? Like, are you? Like, if someone has more power than you in a system, you're never going to be able to change it. They will never relinquish that power. You have to opt out. Yes, have your rebellion, block the celebrities, get mad, figure it out. And then once you've done all of that, please come to Nostr and we will show you that, to your point, like who deserves a platform, the Zaps determine it. The Zaps determine who deserves a platform because people actually gave money for something. You can keep tweeting all you want, but if you never make a single Zap from a single Nostr post ever, you should probably stop.
Yikes.
Like seriously, like if you can't create anything of value,
I don't think that'll happen.
I'm not saying that it will, but what I'm saying is if you come to Nostr and you can't earn 1 sat on Nostr, that should be a signal to you to stop wasting your time creating stuff that nobody wants to see.
Who are you saying this to?
I'm not saying this to anyone in particular.
It seemed very targeted.
But you, but like because
are you
there's
saying it to me?
at the end of the day, it's a marketplace. It's a marketplace of ideas.
Yeah.
And what you're offering up for sale,
Influence.
nobody is buying. That's fundamentally what we have. Now, when you're on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever, right? Like there's a piece of code that's running alongside you that's helping the company make money based on who creates the best things that makes the company money. The company is always trying to figure out who makes the most money for us, not who can we make the most money for on Nostr.
Or what great ideas can we elevate?
Exactly. They figured out a long time ago, just like cable news did, just like newspapers, like everyone figures this out eventually, or figures out how to do it in their own way. Fear and arguments. That's what makes them money. They know that. It's like cigarettes. Don't let them say that, oh, there's other things that they're selling. They're just selling fear and arguments. And social media companies just did it in a very sly, slick way where they didn't have to put somebody in a suit in front of you and lie to you to say they weren't selling you fear and arguments. You sold it to yourselves.
I didn't know this until recently, but if you go on a post and there's a couple of really mean comments, those are bots.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Why do you think Elon was so mad that he overspent by like $50 billion to buy Twitter?
Because they're all bots. I knew
they were
I
not
knew
only
that.
is it all bots, but like they were.
But not just Twitter, like the other apps as well.
Oh no, bots are everywhere. No one's saying that Twitter only had the bot problem. Elon just liked Twitter, and so he was mad that there were bots on the thing that he liked. But a lot of these platforms need the bots.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah,
They need the bots because
people are lurkers, like you said. People are just sitting there scrolling.
They need the bots because the bot starts the arguments.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing that the bot if there's no argument that the bot can start, people argue about the fact that the bots are there.
Mm-hmm.
So the bots have to exist because they are trying to figure out how to make the most money for the company. And the way to make the most money for the company is to sell fear and arguments. So they need fear and they need arguments at all times. It's hard to get fear, but they can keep arguments going all day.
So can I, baby.
But Nostr has fundamentally removed that problem. Now, there are some people that are trying to build some of that stuff back. You know, Primal, for example, has trending and stuff like that. And they're offering that in the marketplace and people seem to like Primal. So maybe the market does want some of that, but it's not mandatory. You don't have to use Primal. Twitter, you have to use a Twitter client. So whatever Twitter says this does today is what the experience that you're going to get. On Nostr, you can use Primal and get like trending and all that fun stuff. Or you can use Amethyst, which doesn't do that. You're not being forced into any behavioral pattern.
It's just choice.
It's just choice. The fact that you can actually make money from your content on day one. There is no company trying to figure out how to make money off of you. I guess fundamentally Primal is trying to make money off of you, but like no one is trying to make money off of the content that you create. They're offering you services so that you could offer content. That's what Primal's doing. They're offering an app. They're offering a client to the Nostr protocol, but that's it. And it's a very nuanced difference that I don't think people will truly understand until they, again, opt out.
So not a very like Bitcoin focused conversation, but I think it all comes down to Bitcoin at the end. Once people find out you can make money.
You got to want to opt out. You got to be mad enough to want to opt out. And once you get that upset, first, hopefully you opt out of social media first, because technically that's what I had done. And then once you've opted out of social media, you can start getting actual information into your head. And then once you start getting actual information, perhaps you will find Bitcoin and then want to opt out of the bigger game that's being played.
It's time for Satoshi for your thoughts. So Ian, who would you say has influenced you the most on Bitcoin?
A lot of people. There's actually a tweet I did sometime last year, but a lot of people in the beginning who like gave me conviction that I was like around a bunch of real people. So the first one was this guy Svetsky. I've talked about him on the pod. Just the way that he like approaches explaining his position is very like aggressive, whatever you want to call it, but it works. Like he's toxic, right? And in a weird way, like that's the way I needed to hear it. Yeah, okay, yeah, like they are like robbing us blind, and like, you know, you need a little bit of like agitation, if you will. He at the time was doing a lot of writing or long form tweeting, I suppose. People that make me think are people that I follow. And so I think he was probably like the first like Bitcoiner that I actually had like a face-to-face conversation with. And I think that's probably the most influential because he was just very like real. I don't know.
Oh, I love that.
And then other people after that, but he was probably the most influential.
And what does he do with his platform? Are you pleased with how he wields his influence?
I mean, his platform is like I said, aggressive, toxic. If you're not here for the fight, like what are you doing? Talks about the remnant, which is like the people who get things first usually. And that was part of why like I really identify what he was talking about when he was talking about the remnant and how it applied to Bitcoin. And that was probably one of the first things that kind of made me go like, I usually am right about things before other people. Is this another one of those things, right? Because up until that point, it's just like, okay, like am I just around a bunch of crazy people? Like that's kind of how it feels, at least to me, like coming into Bitcoin like in the very beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it looks like crazy town. It looks crazy. Like I'll admit that, right?
It sounds crazy.
And it sounds crazy, but at the same time,
internet money.
I mean, forget the Bitcoin part, just the people that are discussing it, right? Like, and the other topics that they're talking about. But that remnant bit stuck with me because I was like, well, yeah, like these people are very different than the people that I normally interact with on social media, but they're not crazy. They're just passionate.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so passionate that they're like, I don't care what you have to say. I'm still going to say it. Kick me off of Twitter. I'll recreate my account 5 times and I'll keep back here screaming the same stuff. And maybe I'll get one more person, right? Like, again, I don't like making it about religion, but it was like fanatic. They're fanatics, right? You kind of have to be a fanatic to catch people's attention.
Yeah, you do. Even that, whatever persona that you take on, that is the approach that you're taking. Like you said, Svetsky is aggressive.
The fanaticism, if from afar, looks crazy. But when you come inside of it, it's like, I don't do that stuff, but I like being insulated by it. You're protected by people that, for example, intellectually protected. It's weird. I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day. Like, I know whenever something happens that requires like deep, insightful thought into what happened, somebody in the Bitcoin community is going to do that. It's not going to be like, you know, the joke with Dave Chappelle's like, oh, someone get Ja Rule on the phone. We got to know how to feel about this, right? It's like, no, there's like legit professors in here. The smartest people on the planet are in this group. And so I may not have the answer or the talking point or the way to think about a certain thing as it's happening all the time. I have my opinion, but I'm surrounded by like a wall of intellectual defense system. And it's awesome, especially the Austrian economics guys. Like they are the best because they write a lot, professors. So they tend to write a lot. And so they're Bitcoiners. They're very quiet Bitcoiners. You know, I don't think they're going to conferences, but they fundamentally see what Bitcoin is and they just are unsure of how the state is going to like approach it at the very end. But this intellectual wall that I have inside of this community, all the times when I was trying to explain stuff to people and I felt crazy, I don't feel that way anymore.
Well, it's your safe space.
It's not that it's a safe space. It's just that like, these are the people that share ideas. These are the ideas people. And it's a battle of ideas. And so, you know, today I literally posted something on Nostr where I was like, I had an idea and I knew that none of my friends could actually discuss this because you kind of have to know about Bitcoin. And so I was like, so here, like maybe the Nostr community, maybe the Bitcoiners will get what I'm saying. I would never do that on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because I know the algorithm isn't going to show it to anybody, number one. And number two, that's not what Twitter's for. I know that if my group is awake during that period of time and they think it's interesting or compelling or whatever, they will say something. I know that will happen. I don't know that will happen on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. It's just not guaranteed. You can't trust the feedback that you get on those platforms.
Well, I'm glad you have a safe space and you trust it. I mean, these are just like really important foundations of a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I trust Nostr. A trustless system.
Thanks for listening to the show.
Now, let's get you set up on Fountain so you can start earning some money simply by listening to podcasts.
Go to fountain.fm to download the app.
Once your app is set up, search for Flirting with Bitcoin and hit follow.
Listen to our show and episodes from your other favorite podcasts to earn your first Satoshis, which are fractions of a Bitcoin.
And make sure to keep an eye out for our promoted episodes.
You can earn up to 100 Satoshis just for listening.
Pretty cool, huh?
You can use those sats you've earned to send us a boost, like a little payment with a message.
And I swear, we try to respond to everyone.
Every episode, we shout out the top boosters.
To support us or other podcasters with more sats, you can top up your Fountain wallet with a bank card or lightning transfer from apps like Strike or Cash App.
The easiest way to learn is to get started.
Now you're all set up for podcasting 2.0.